Sigma did it again, making another world's first lens, and this time it's the brand new Sigma 28 to 45mm f1.8 art, and it's the world's first full-frame zoom lens with a 1.8 aperture. Now I wanted to shoot something special with this lens, so before we talk about it, here's a short documentary I filmed entirely on this one lens. It's only 2 minutes, so don't worry.
The fascination or the obsession with owning a classic car or driving a classic car is actually getting lost in the experience of actually driving it down a back road. There's something about just feeling free. There's no technology, there's no iPads on the dash. It is you, a vehicle, a motor, and that is all you're hearing. There's nothing else that can distract you from driving that vehicle. You have to be one with the vehicle every time you drive it. And I think that's the part that makes me realize how much I love classic cars, because it makes me escape all the technology in the world. My passion came from my old man. He always showed me photos of him growing up, the cars he owned, the toys he owned, the dirt bikes, snowmobiles, and sure enough, the one day he buys an MGB, a 1975 MGB, and shows me everything to know from painting, welding, oil changes, how to actually drive the classic car. That actually fired and fueled my passion even more. My very first vintage car was a 1966 Ford Falcon that I traded a lawnmower for. I believe it was a 170 motor with a 3 on the tree. I think for me, telling someone what it feels like to, one, work on a vehicle and then drive it is something that you really can't explain. It's a feeling that just comes through your whole body almost while you're driving down a back road and the sun is just coming down. It's an experience that you can't really relate to anything else. And unless you do it yourself, you go through the process of buying your first classic car, fixing it, working on it, putting your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and driving it is just an experience that no one will really understand unless you do it for yourself.
So yeah, we filmed this entire short doc about Rob all on this new 28 to 45mm 1.8. We'll talk about my experience with it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and who I think this lens is actually for. Now before we get into it, this video is not sponsored by Sigma. I do have a working relationship with them, so they did send me this lens early to test out and give my feedback, but nobody's telling me to make this video. I just want to because we've never seen a lens like this before, and I think it's super interesting. Now, I'm not a cinematographer or videographer or someone who makes documentaries or interviews. In fact, I'm just a portrait photographer, but I've always wanted to dive more into video and create something like I just did. But buying a bunch of prime or cinema lenses was not in the cards for me. I wasn't about to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a bunch of lenses and dive into something that I might not enjoy. This lens is not only a more affordable option, but it's also the most versatile option, at least I think so. At 28mm, you're still in that wide focal range. Then you have 35mm, which is super common and my favorite focal length, and then 45mm getting more into that standard focal range. Having one lens that can do it all and being able to shoot an entire project at different focal lengths at that fast 1.8 aperture without swapping out lenses, you're getting all the benefits of a prime, but the versatility of a zoom lens.
Classic cars because it makes me escape all the technology in the world.
Even just for these videos here that I make on YouTube and Reels and TikTok, because I sit so close to my desk and there's not much separation between me and the background, sometimes even at f2.8, which is what I'm filming at right now, I'm not getting the bokeh and separation that I want. You can see that my computer is still kind of in focus. Everything else is kind of in focus. There's like a slight blur, but with this lens, I can get that separation that I want. And you probably have noticed that my last 3 videos that I filmed were all on this lens at f 1.8. Now in terms of features, this lens has all internal zoom, which means there's no zoom barrel that sticks out as you zoom in and out. I shot most of these clips handheld because that's the look that I wanted, but if I did want to throw it on a gimbal, I wouldn't have to worry about rebalancing the gimbal every time I zoom in and out, and that's because it's done all internally and the weight is not shifting. Now it is part of Sigma's art line, which means you are going to get the highest image quality, and yes, this lens is extremely sharp. It also features Sigma's HLA linear autofocusing system for fast and quiet autofocusing, and paired up with my A7 IV, which is what I filmed that documentary on, the eye detect autofocus on the A7 IV and the HLA linear focusing motors on this 28 to 45mm, I never missed a shot. Now paired up with its fast aperture, like I mentioned, we can achieve that blurry background and separation that we all want, which makes this lens a great option for video creators, and it's one of the reasons why I chose it for this project. However, the same goes for photos. As a portrait photographer, all I do is shoot on fast prime lenses to separate my subject. On the body itself, it has an aperture ring with an aperture lock and declick switch. This came in handy when my exposure changed while filming the interview. I was able to unclick my aperture ring and stop down and make it practically unnoticeable. It has an AF to MF switch, zoom ring, focus ring, and 2 AFL custom buttons. Now this isn't a small lens, and if you're used to something like the 24-70, it is going to be a little bit bigger than that, coming in at about 6 inches and a weight of 950 grams on the Sony version. Now I know some of you are going to complain about the size and weight, but you need to remember what you're getting in this lens. With any lens, the larger the zoom range or focal length and the faster the aperture, the bigger that lens is going to be. You can see that if you compare the 35mm 1.2 to a 35mm 1.4, which I did a photo shoot on that. You can check it out up here if you want. You can also see that if you compare 24-70 to a 70-200. And the same thing would happen if you take that 70-200 f2.8 and make it a 1.8. It would get significantly bigger and thicker than the 2.8 version. So considering you have a zoom range from the wide to the standard end at a fast 1.8 aperture, the weight is not a deal breaker, at least for me it isn't. Now it does take 82mm filters, and the price this lens comes in at is absolutely mind-blowing for what you get. $13.49 USD or $18.99 Canadian. Now I really did enjoy my time shooting with this lens. Again, having that versatility while having a fast aperture was game-changing. But there were a few times when I wish I could have gotten a little bit wider than 28mm, like 24mm. That extra 4mm does make a difference. And that's honestly because for a lot of the shots I was inside Rob's truck, sitting right beside him, and we were in such a tight space trying to get the shot that we wanted. Anyway, I think if you are someone who wants to buy one lens and having a fast aperture is important for whatever it is that you're filming or shooting, I think this is a great option because you're not going to be locked into one focal length. You'll have some versatility, so whether you're filming videos like documentaries, interviews, commercials, or maybe you shoot portraits, this is a great lens for that. And with that being said, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like it, make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
What are the odds that you guys are filming this video and there's another C10X?
Couldn't be perfect. Couldn't be any more perfect.